Look, I don't have anything against anybody. When I make these videos, it's not about combating an individual. My mind is, I function astrologically from the ninth house, so my mind is above subjecting itself to individual people, because I realize that, for one thing, we all come from a soul group, and then secondly, most people nowadays are part of organizations, lodges, temples, and churches anyway. So why would I target one person when most people are indoctrinated into some type of a group think? So I'm not going to target one person. When I'm just a bohemian, a natural person, I feel like the only way that you're going to be an individual, natural person is if you totally let go of all of those symbols and images and things that you claim into, like the cross and the compass and the square and all of this stuff that you really probably don't know anything about, and you go ahead and embrace who you really truly are, and then you come back into that from a legal or from a code or from some form of a sovereign status. So, like, for instance, like, they say that, oh, you're against Freemasons and this and that. It's not about being against Freemasons or Eastern Stars and things of that nature when I understand exactly what an Eastern Star is or a Freemason is. Like, for instance, Freemasonry, your symbol is a G with a compass up under it. I studied astrology for over 20 years. You mean to tell me that I don't know what that means? I'm not going to go into what it means here, but not only do I know what it means, but I know what it's used for in the relationship that an astrologer is supposed to have with a Freemason. Because Freemasons did what? Mapped and built cities. According to the Knights of the Templar, when you study the history of Freemasonry, they came from the Knights of the Templar. They lodged together and slept together in boarding rooms and in certain buildings, which eventually became money over time, became billions of dollars. And they slept in these buildings that were built by the Knights of the Templar and different uh, organizations coming from out the Catholic Church. And this G represented the same G that's in the term astrology. They call it geometry, but it's really called sacred geometry. And this G represented the mapping that you're going to need, or the blueprint that you're going to need if you're going to lay out a city. And you're going to do it correctly. So if you're going to lay out a city and do it correctly, you're going to have to go to an astrologer. And believe it or not, you can't be in a master mason or any organization if you don't have a relationship with an astrologer, so that you can be able to demonstrate your craft. When I say a relationship, a dues paying relationship, meaning that, see, a lot of these cities were mapped out totally incorrectly because they wrote out the astrologer and they just went off and decided to run electrical lines in the way that they saw fit, not knowing that they was running electrical lines on other people's land, which is very important, and B, you didn't even go to an astrologer to find out how the currency or the current was supposed to flow so that these cities could have been built correctly. So right now, even in my head, when I say that I got over probably $1 billion worth of loans that I could give to people just based on that information alone, because you don't even, your money system is not flowing correctly because it wasn't mapped out correctly. The cities weren't mapped out correctly from the very beginning. And you never went to an astrologer that you went to, you didn't pay him all his money. See, I got all of this information already stored in data that I could just loan to people if I really wanted to. So the astrologer that you went to eventually learn this information, or that you were paid, you didn't pay him all the money, and then on top of that, you didn't get all the information because you eventually took some of the secrets, like on some Indiana Jones type of shit, and went and ran and decided that you had it all. You know what I'm saying? Like the Eastern Stars, the same thing. I mean, yeah, the Eastern Stars were chartered and set up and supposed to be dealing with Venus and the information of the Baphomet, and Venus traveling in a certain way, dealing with the energies of love, money, and relationships, and basically going into like when to do a thing, like when to engage in a sexual relationship or a sexual ritual, like when is the best time to do this. See, there's an actual real life contract in a working relationship that you're supposed to have before you can call yourself a sovereign through some lodge or some group. You had a charter, and a charter is given out by an astrologer, and astrologer gives out charts, readings, and this is where a lot of people went wrong at. So I'm not against anyone. I'm going to do a part 2. I just have to put that out. I just give the information out as frankly as possible. So stay wise and vigilant. My airtime ran out. I'm going to come back up at you. 1. Namaste.